with guys like Celine Roland and Luke Oxner, that 77 car from White Racing, running in P7 right now. I always have to give Oxner a bit of love. He's racing out of northern Colorado, calls Windsor, Colorado home. That's where I'm from. I'm so excited to see him doing well. It's great he's here. He's got the Colorado flag flying high, and this is one of the best weekends he's had so far. Oxner in that 77 looking to piece together the results for a top 5 here.
Stout among those getting freight train, Nick. A couple of guys able to work their way around him as they exited the keyhole.
Yeah, but in the early portions of this race, we're finding out that really long straightaway that's got a bit of a bend to the right leading down to the S's is going to be your best place to draft. Do a little bump drafting and set up passes. We've seen it the last 2 laps. First, it was Stout taking the lead from Nathaniel Sparks, and then just moments ago, I should say, Palermo in that green car gave Sparks a big push down into the S's as they both moved up into the top 2 positions. So Palermo getting a little sideways there with Stout all over the rear bumper. That's going to allow Sparks to break away. But up front, Mark, very competitive as we've come to expect here at the Battery Tender Global MX-5.
Stout helped him to, I think, get loose a little bit, talking about the 20 of Palermo. And again, Celine Roland is right there. We'll keep an eye on this battle as it heads toward the keyhole after we go to pit road and check it with Jake Query.
I've come back actually to the garage area here for these MX-5 machines and found the machine of Todd Lamb. Now, guys, the issue is simple. That is the front left side. He's got a lot of damage, and unfortunately, through that contact, it's pushed back all the way up against those BF Goodrich tires. So no matter what they were able to do, it was going to continue to wear down that front left tire. So by the time I got back, that ATL Speedworks machine of Todd Lamb is here, but he nor the team are in it. They have so we can officially say in this round of the Global MX-5 Cup that Todd Lamb's day is done.
Palermo getting awfully aggressive in his setup for turn number 5, Nick. He's weaving back and forth looking for a little room.
Yeah, but look at that black car of John Dean, number 16, making a nice pass to the inside of Bernacchi as he's going to move up another spot, moving into the 6th position. Again, John Dean started 17th, Mark, and he's all the way up to 6th. He's been doing work, and certainly to put a bow on what Jake was talking about involving Todd Lamb, this racetrack, Mark, much too fast, much too competitive to be out there and risk having a tire rub to have one go down. So the good news for Todd Lamb and that team, they're going to have an opportunity to get that car repaired because we have another race tomorrow.
Allison, Noaker, and Oxner among those that John Dean II was able to work his way around. And I guess the bad news for that lead pack is that he has now effectively caught them as, again, your leader continues to be Nathaniel Sparks, but we think that's only for the time being because right there is the number 20 of Fernand Palermo.
Yep, we've hit the 1/3 mark of this 45-minute race here in Lexington, Ohio at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. This is the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires. Mark, you talk about that battle for the lead. Hernan Palermo's been super aggressive early on, and this is the corner right here that you really got to get really set up to get a good run. And if you can draft, get someone behind you to push you, that's where you can make the pass. Right now it's Sparks leading, but Palermo's going to be the guy that gets right up behind the rear bumper of that 8 car.
Yeah, they almost look as one as they head toward that little bender there in turn number 3, and we'll see if Palermo decides to jump out of line, although he needs to protect his position because Stout, Rieger, and Roland are all right there. But as we say that now, John Dean II is working his way around Celine Roland.
And don't look now, but coming with him in that white and black car to the 7th place is the 14-year-old Robert Noaker, who is right there behind Celine Roland. So starting to see some drivers charge from the back. And boy, John Dean putting on a show, Mark, as he is now into the top 5 here at Mid-Ohio. And look at Rieger put it up the inside of Robert Stout looking for the 3rd spot.
Well, whether he's related to the Sausage King family or not, he is grinding up the field a bit.
That was lovely.
About John Dean II.
That was lovely.
Well, we mentioned in our opening comments the fact that there are 3 championships up for grabs and $290,000 in support. Let's expand upon that just a little bit.
Well, there is a lot of money up for grabs when it talks about this Global MX-5 Cup. I wanted to remind everyone that John Doonan was the parade car driver, and I think the only reason he took that job, speaking of money, was so that he could help pay off the bill that Mid-Ohio is going to send him for all the divots these MX-5 Cup cars are putting around the track. We joked about it at Road America. The landscaping folks in Elkhart Lake probably don't love when MX-5 Cup comes down, and we've seen it. It feels like every lap these guys are dropping wheels, tires, and spitting up dirt. But yeah, Mark, you talked about it. It's Mazda's commitment to the Road to Indy or the Road to 24, which is what both of these programs are. It's a grassroots-style motorsports with top dollar level competition. And you're racing these MX-5 Cup cars. You're in one for under $59,000, and then you have the chance to come out here and win a $200,000 scholarship, a $50,000 Rookie of the Year prize. There's a cash race at the end of the season, which is yet to be announced. But the fact is, you're in these cars for not a lot of money at all, and if you have a good head about you and a good engineer or mechanic, you can be racing and making some serious coin pretty quickly and advancing your career, most importantly, here thanks to the MX-5 Cup.
Now, let's describe the difference for those that might go onto the website, want to find out more about this. Let's discuss the difference between the championship, the Masters class, and the Challenger Cup.
Yeah, absolutely, and I've had the joy of doing this over the PA the last day and a half here for practice and qualifying. Championship class is what it sounds like. These are the guys that are racing for a championship. Nathaniel Sparks, Nico Rieger, Robert Stout, John Dean, Celine Roland, and so on. The Masters class is for the guys that are just a little bit older. The number that's been quoted to me is 40 years old. It's the drivers that are just 40 and up, and they don't necessarily want to compete at the same level of intensity as their championship level drivers, but they're still racing for a championship and race wins. And then Challenger Cup is track day, guys. It's kind of what we're calling them right now. It's more a term you're going to hear in the sports car world, the gentleman driver. There's so many MX-5 Cup cars sprinkled throughout this country, and they're not being used to race. They're being used to track day. They're being used to practice, to train, to work on fundamentals of driving a race car. A big area that's going on, the Atlantic Northeast, Monticello Motor Club. So what the folks at Anderson Promotions and Mazda have done, they said, hey, there's so many of these MX-5 Cup cars out and about on racetracks all around the country. We know you guys are watching the IndyCar Radio Network broadcast of these fantastic races. You want to compete, but you're not ready to do it at the level of a championship driver like Nathaniel Sparks, Nico Rieger, Robert Stout. So it's come on out with your MX-5 Cup car. We're going to give you a little bit of extra coaching. You might have a few extra voices on your radio, which normally aren't allowed, and you get to work on not doing that. This is what you get to work on.
We got a big incident headed down to the S's. It's Dean and Stout who were banging doors a little bit, Mark, trying to see who'd be the most brave getting down to the corner. And it spilled over with both of those drivers spinning off the racetrack. That is John Dean in the black number 16 car who has come to a stop. It looked like Stout was able to get back onto the racetrack, but the incredible charge from 17th appears to be over, at least for now, for John Dean, as he has taken the steering wheel off of that race car, and we have a full course yellow here at Mid-Ohio.
From 17th, Nick, he had worked his way up into the top 5 and was looking for the 4th position, and it's staggering to me just how many of the contenders that we have seen have issues today. Hands on hips, they're walking away, not real happy with this turn of events, and in some respects it mirrors a bit, I think, Nick, of the Verizon IndyCar Series, in which different guys have taken turns being dominant throughout the course of this season. I mean, we look at the results, and we talked about the weekend that Nico Rieger had at Barber, then John Dean II at Road America, and John Dean II, anyway, is a long way from that here at Mid-Ohio this week.
Here is a replay of what happened. They were battling for the 4th position. You see Dean drifted over to the right, Stout, and they both make contact, and they hook. And I'm really glad that this wasn't a lot worse, Mark, because that is a fast portion of the racetrack. We see Stout take out a couple of the signs, or at least one of them there, to driver's right. Dean spins around, about saved it, and then that car hooked back to the grass. As for Stout, looks like he was able to keep it off the wall on the inside of that corner and then drift back onto the racetrack. But boy,
he meant to do that, didn't he?
I would
just the way he hoped it would. So.
And then Dean finally noses it into the wall there, really at the entrance of the corner, which is why he hopped out of that race car. But that's a fast portion of the racetrack. Guys just not giving an inch, Mark, and that's a tough break for both of those drivers. I'm interested to see what type of damage Robert Stout might have on that number 28 car now.
Well, I suppose, as we've said earlier throughout the course of this weekend, in all forms of racing, I mean, by and large, this place is perhaps as forgiving as any. Maybe Barber is very, very similar in terms of minimal damage that you can do to a race car if you get off course. And oftentimes, much like you saw there, you have the opportunity to get back on. And we get a look at one of our monitors at John Dean II talking to one of the course workers out there, and you know that he's just got to be dejected because at the very least I think he was poised for a podium finish.
I don't think you could argue that he had one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. There's no doubt about it. John Dean, who swept the weekend at Road America 1 month ago and was charging We get one to go at the line, but Jake Query, the day ends for John Dean II.
The front of the field right now is that 17 machine. He is not the leader, so as a result of that, they are going to go ahead and bring him through on the drive-through, and as a result of that, that will clear the pace here at the front of the field. So we'll catch up with John Dean in just a minute, and we'll get ready to go racing back here again at Mid-Ohio.
So Sparks, Palermo, Rieger, Noaker. How about him up to fourth? Roland is fifth, Bernacki sixth, Oxner, Stout, Schmidt, and Henderson, the top 10. And as we mentioned, we've raced at the Circuit of the Americas in Texas, Barber Motorsports Park, Road America, now at Mid-Ohio. Be with the Verizon IndyCar Series and the Mazda Road to Indy at Portland. And then let's talk a little bit about Tony, that fabulous facility at Monticello, New York, that's getting ready to host the season finale this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. The Road to Indy wraps up in Portland, Oregon over Labor Day weekend, and MX5 Cup will be there, as you said, Mark. But these guys are going to wrap up their championship season at Monticello Motor Club up there in upstate, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And one of the reasons that the MX5 Cup is ending their championship and going there has, again, a lot to do with what we were discussing, that Challenger Cup. There's a lot of MX5 Cup cars up in that region. There's a lot of guys that track day with it. They hot lap with it. They even have a passenger seat that you can have put in by Long Road Racing, who builds these cars, and they just drive these cars a lot, but they don't race them. So they want to take the racing up there. They want to reward the Northeast for being such a strong customer base for this MX5 Cup program. So we're going to go race there. We're going to put some guys that have never done this kind of racing before but know this car very well on the track, and I think you're going to see record-sized fields when we end the season at Monticello. There's going to be a ton of MX5 Cup cars on track, and speaking of that quickly, 76 Mazda race cars on track this weekend here at Mid-Ohio.
Let's talk not only about from a title sponsorship standpoint, the good folks at Battery Tender, but how about that hard charger award? Tell folks about that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So that's given to the car, the driver, and the crew chief that passes the most cars under green flag conditions from the start of the race. So it's your qualifying position. Unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily consider if you get knocked back at the start of the race and then work your way up. It's from qualifying. However many positions you gain, should you be the driver that gets the most, you are then awarded with the hard charger award, and an actual Battery Tender hard charger award along with a cash prize goes to both the driver and the crew chief. $1,000 goes to each, and we do that in every one of our races. So $4,000 going out every weekend to the drivers and the crew chiefs who pass the most cars. It's a good deal for the crew chief. He didn't have to do any work. The driver goes out and passes all of them, and he still leaves with $1,000.
Back to green flag racing. Sparks, Palermo, Rieger, Noaker, and Roland, the top 5, Nick, as they head toward turn number 1.
Yep, Sparks has Palermo all over that back bumper as they make their way through turn number 1. This is going to give an opportunity some of those drivers that lost that lead pack a bit to get right up on the rear bumper of their fellow opponents. They'll start to fan out as they make their way through the keyhole. Everyone going to stay single file as the 77 of Luke Oxner. He'll be the first one to test the outside of the racetrack, but it looks like Stout may fill that gap. Meanwhile, though, Nathaniel Sparks leads the train down towards the S.
And let's see what happens in turn number 4 if they decide to stay single file among the front 5. Palermo taking a glance to the inside, and it looks like, Nick, the leader's going to get freight trained as positions 2, 3, and 4 going to try to get to his inside. At least 2 of them, it appears, are going to be able to make the pass and put Palermo to P1. Sparks is battling to hold on to that position with Nico Rieger.
Oh, give Nathaniel Sparks a ton of credit as he made that car awful wide as we've got one car spinning towards the rear of the field. That's the 9 machine of Jesse Schmidt. But, yeah, man, we saw Sparks really hold it tight there through the S's, and it looks like he was able to hold on to that second position. He did. That kicks Rieger back to 3rd, and then you've got Roland and Noaker going side by side for the 4th position.
Schmidt was able to get back underway, so a local caution only. Let's go back to pit road, check in with Jake Query.
This points championship is tightening up, and unfortunately a spectator for all of it is Brian Ortiz, who came in right in the mix of things. First off, let's review. Tell me what knocked you out of this race today. What happened?
Well, a really bad move by another competitor took us out of the race. Lap 1, we had a great car, we had a great team. We just needed to start the race, and I don't know, he was 2 or 3 cars behind me, and he just went straight and hitting me and Vickers and putting me out of the race. We're racing for a championship. That's completely unnecessary and uncalled what happened. If we had any chance for the championship, I think this will it's going to set us back for sure.
What about just the emotion when you come back? It's got to be, I would imagine, is it more anger? Is it more just disappointment? It's got to be difficult now to sit and watch and see what happens here.
I'm disappointed for my team, my sponsor, everybody from home that watch the races and follow me and support me. I'm extremely angry for sure at Todd Lamb for the move he did. That's something very difficult to pass.
You talk to him?
For sure, we'll talk. I don't know if it do any difference for sure, because it's not gonna get my points back and my opportunity for the championship. But we have a race tomorrow. I will go out second, and we'll try it again.
Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
It's Brian Ortiz.
Yep, Brian Ortiz going to have to try to fight back, as we mentioned, Mark. He came in second in the championship. Obviously very disappointed and frustrated by that move by Todd Lamb that ended his day down in turn one. As of right now, Ortiz going to end with a DNF buried all the way towards the back of the field here in race
from
one.
Puerto Rico, and Copeland Motorsports, the team and the sponsor. The differential was 142 to 113 in terms of the points. So now the question becomes, your points leader, Nico Reger, does he race a bit more conservatively, knowing that the guy that was chasing him in points has had a DNF today?
I would think if you're a championship driver, that's something, a bit of information that you would like to know. But you also have to keep in mind that there are other drivers that are in contention for this championship as well. One of them was John Dean, who entered this weekend third. So this is already shaping up to be a big, big points day for Nico Reger, regardless, Mark, of where he finishes, if he wins this race or not.
And Tony Celine Roland can make a move in the points, because coming into this race, he was at 108 behind the 142 of Reger, and he is in the top 5 and has been there all day. This could be a big day for him.
Absolutely. And guys, I just got to tell you one thing from kind of spending a lot of time with these MX5 Cup drivers and doing their races last year. Unfortunately, MX5 Cup drivers know a lot of words. They don't know what conservative is. There will be no conservative driving, racing, pace laps of any kind today. Nico Reger probably isn't even being told about all that. He's being told to go and win this race if they're telling him anything at all.
Just had a car off the racetrack. That's the 69 machine of Michael Dinan, who got off the racetrack. We saw the 31 car rejoin the action as well of Brooks Leal, so not sure what caused that, but a couple of the drivers towards the back of the pack getting off track in the S's. Both drivers did refire those machines, so it'll be a local yellow only here at Road America. And Tony, as we watch the top 5 stream back onto the front straightaway, it's Sparks, Palermo, Reger, Roland, and then how about that 14-year-old Robert Noaker right there poised for a top 5 finish?
Guys, Mo Murray's not here this weekend, but if he were, he'd either be elbowing or poking me in the ribs right about now to bring up the point that in 5th place, Nick, as you just said, it is Robert Noaker, who is a 14-year-old and racing here in the Mazda MX-5 Cup. Guys, when I was 14 years old, I wasn't allowed to drive a car in a video game, and he's out here running in the top 5. He entered the weekend 3 points out of the championship top 10, so he is running. This is his best weekend so far of the year, and it makes sense. Every weekend he's getting better, he's advancing, and right now he's sitting on a P5 position. A little bit time left still in this race, but he's driving so smart right now.
Mark, he was P5. That young man's all the way up to 3rd now, as the championship contenders Reger and Roland mix it up a bit.
Yeah, we saw Reger get awfully wide off of the keyhole and almost on cue, to your point, Tony. No way that he's going to, I guess, take a passive approach to the final 14 minutes of this race. I mean, let's face it, bottom line is, while certainly you want to pile up points, if you win, the points have a tendency to take care of themselves no matter the form of motorsports.
Exactly. You can worry about points and do the math and count all day long if you want, but guess what? The guy who goes out and actually drives the car and wins the race, odds are he's probably going to be looking at the championship trophy when this thing's all said and done. And that's how guys like Nathaniel Sparks, Robert Stout, Luke Oxner, and even though he's out of this race, John Dean, that's how some of these guys that have been doing it a bit longer, that's how they look at it. And Nico Reger, he's going to learn that philosophy if he hasn't already. You go out there, you lead laps, you win races, and the points, well, they'll take care of themselves when it's all said and done.
I keep waiting for Hernan Palermo in that 2nd position, Nick, to jump out and take a peek. But now, as we've talked about before, when you're in second place, as tight as you are among the top 3 or 4, he's got to protect that second place position. You don't want to give it up if he goes for second.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you wait too long to being an attacker, you're going to be attacked yourself. And the good news for Palermo is they're starting to slug it out for third. Roland moves around Noaker to grab that third spot. Noaker's able to slide that car over to the right to protect the 4th position from Nico Rieger. It's a 7-car breakaway, and here comes Palermo to the outside with a nice run, Marcus. He's going to take the lead, and then Noaker's going to look to the inside of Roland, looking for second.
Something happened to Sparks,
yeah.
Nick. I don't know, but off of that turn, all of a sudden, he dropped like the proverbial rock, and he lost several positions. He's all the way back, I believe, to the 6th spot now. So an issue for your leader, Nathaniel Sparks, in that number 8 machine.
Yeah, that was bizarre because we've seen these drivers get runs on the leader, but nothing that substantial as Sparks fell all the way back to, it looks like now 7th in line, but it's Palermo, the new leader here at Mid-Ohio, and for Sparks, if everything's okay on that car, he's certainly capable of making a charge, but his work is cut out for him, Marcus. We now have 12 minutes to go in this 45-minute race at Mid-Ohio.
And it's been a long time now since Salim Roland has been to victory lane, race number 2 at the Circuit of the Americas, as a matter of fact. And, you know, he's awfully hungry in an effort to get himself back to P1, and he'll see if he can track down the leader, Hernan Palermo, as we go back to pit road to Jake Query.
Disappointment for Michael Dinan. He came in that number 69 machine. They took a look to the underbody and really kind of analyzed all the way around. They were just about to send him out, and then at the last minute went ahead and killed that motor. So his day now comes to a conclusion here at Mid-Ohio as well.
Uncharacteristic attrition here, Nick Yeoman. We've not seen that over the course of the previous race weekend.
Yep, it's been interesting as we've seen, and it's been drivers who's in front of the pack, middle of the pack, back of the pack, and this has kind of been the spot right now where it's been awful hairy. The battle down into the S's. Noaker's going to grab that 2nd spot from Roland and then immediately tuck in behind Hernan Palermo. But Robert Stout running that 5th position, Mark. He was up front early, kind of got shuffled out due to that incident with John Dean. He's right there back in contention. Stout's a guy a year ago we saw go to victory lane a couple times.
Yep, hanging around the top 5 after he dropped to 7th. He was able to pick up a couple of positions. Tony, let's talk about one of the neat things that's up for grabs most race weekends. This is one of them. Let's talk about the company that's providing the opportunity for one of these drivers to go home with a custom driver cooling system.
Oh, yeah, FAST. It's a really great program, and those guys are stepping up and doing a lot for the Global MX5 Cup. It's a company that, exactly as you said, does the cool suits, and it's pretty simple. All the drivers that are entered in the season have their name essentially dropped into a hat, and every weekend at the drivers' meeting, a name is drawn, and once you win, your name is obviously withdrawn, and it's a really cool deal. Sarah Montgomery was with us in Austin, Texas as a representative of FAST. She is not here this weekend, unfortunately, but she's always representing the company, and I'm not sure who's won it this weekend, but it's always up for grabs, and a different driver leaves with a cool suit every single weekend.
10 minutes remaining to 34. Joey Bickers, another guy we typically see in contention. Reported he was having issues steering the car. A flat left rear, I think, might have contributed to
Well,
this.
and he was one of those drivers that was involved in that really, really early incident down in the keyhole that ended the day for both Brian Ortiz and Todd Lamb. So I'm guessing that, yeah, there's probably a big tire rub with some fender hanging off of that race car for Bickers, who, as you mentioned, another guy that we expected to be up front contending for a win.
How about this 14-year-old?
That's impressive, man.
I mean, he is holding serve in that 2nd position with someone as aggressive as Roland tracking him down, and Rieger and Stout, they're all right there, but he has not flinched yet, Nick. And Tony, let's face it, this has been a progression for him. I mean, we go back to the Circuit of the Americas when we first started talking about him there, and then we noticed him at Farmer. He started flirting with the top 10, and Road America running inside the top 10. I mean, he has really been patient in terms of learning how to drive this race car throughout the course of the season.
Oh, you hit it on the head, Mark. It's been a progression, and from Austin, Texas, when everyone was excited that he was holding his own inside the top 20, which was basically 15th to 20th, and then you said it through Alabama at Road America, and now we're here. He's not just competing for a top 5, guys. He's trying to hold a trophy when this thing is all said and done, and what that's going to be fun for Keith Dalton and the staff at Anderson Promotions. They'll have to not serve a bottle of champagne for him to spray. They have to to serve a bottle of sparkling cider for the 14-year-old to spray. But it's just funny. You guys talk about Celine Roland and Robert Noaker are battling for second and third right now. Well, they're both rookies, is what's important to understand. Celine Roland is new to this series. So is Robert Noaker. Roland in his early 20s, and then Noaker in his 14-year-old. It's fun because this is MX5 Cup racing, whether it's guys like John Dean who have been doing this for so many years, or a 14-year-old like Robert Noaker. It's close, it's competitive, and it's fun racing to watch. That's what we see every single week with MX5 Cup.
Noaker's Auto Body, the sponsorship. 6 Sideways Racing, the team from Duncannon, Pennsylvania. And do we see Luke Oxner now flirting with the top 10, Nick? We see him pulling up on Bernacchi and Stout.
Yeah, Oxner's had a really nice day in that blue and yellow car as he goes side by side with Bernacchi here out on the racetrack as they'll battle for that 5th position. It is Palermo who is your leader, then Noaker, Roland and Rieger, Stout the top 5. Then you've got Oxner and Bernacchi out there running that top 7.
Nathaniel Sparks, the 8 machine, got off the course, Nick, up at the exit of the keyhole. So trouble for the 8 of Nathaniel Sparks, and that's pretty notable because he too was in contention for the championship.
Yeah, tough break for Nathaniel Sparks, your pole sitter today. Think about that, Mark, the front row today with Sparks and Bickers both having problems today. Tough break for those 2 drivers. 7 minutes to go now here at Mid-Ohio, and Noaker is there. He is all over the back of that green machine for Hernan Palermo as they race out of turn 1, headed towards the keyhole.
We are watching as timing and scoring as they clear the loop. We are seeing Sparks drop like the proverbial stone. He's all the way back to the 16th position as we speak after that off. As again, activity picks up in the front of the field with time winding down. Rieger engaged in a pretty good battle.
Yeah, and then a bit of rear bumper flaring off of that 87 machine of Celine Roland as they fight tooth and nail for the 2nd position. Meanwhile, here comes Robert Noaker. He's going to pop to the outside mark. He's going to take the lead headed to the S's.
That is a textbook pass, no matter the form of racing, going down into that turn. Meanwhile, Rieger, Roland, and others going side by side as they work their way through 4, 5, and 6. Robert Stout trying to get back to the front. He's involved in that side-by-side battle.
You're not going to see any other series this weekend go side-by-side like those drivers just did all the way through the S's. It's a 2-car breakaway up front for Noaker and Palermo. Then Rieger, the points leader, holds down that 3rd spot, but he's got his hands full with Robert Stout in 4th, Roland in 5th, Oxner and Bernacchi having great runs in 6th and 7th as those 5 cars pack up through Thunder Valley.
Our good friend Mo Murray would be absolutely pounding on your head and shoulders right now.
Oh my God! Mo Murray is somewhere in California watching this race right now, probably pulling his hair out and knocking his cereal off the counter, because if he's not Robert Noaker's biggest advocate, I don't know who is. And this is incredible to watch. This is fun racing. Most importantly, he just sets the fastest. Well, I'm sorry, that's the notification that he's the new race leader, but he is out front. The 14-year-old driving in car number 30 is leading. Guys like Hernan Palermo, who's a legacy MX5 Cup driver, Nico Rieger, the driver out of Houston, your championship point leader, Robert Stout, who's raced everything from winged sprint cars to road course cars, and Celine Roland, round 2 winner. So Robert Noaker is showing some of the best how to do it here with just a few minutes left in Mid-Ohio, guys. This is fantastic.
I'm liking what Luke Oxner in that 77 is doing, Nick. I mean, he's been awfully pace. Looks like he might be ready to set up Roland as they head toward turn 4.
Yeah, I'm not sure Oxner's going to have enough time with under 5 minutes to get that car all the way up to the lead, but you mentioned he's been super racy, charging, looking for the top 5. Boy, Roland throws a big block on Stout, headed towards the S's, and then hugs the back bumper of Rieger. Oxner's going to try to use that inside line to get around Stout. That's not going to work. And then all of a sudden, there's Thomas Bernacchi sitting in the 7th position, Mark. I think kind of thinking, waiting for these guys to make a mistake because he may be able to pounce and pick up a couple of lead positions.
So Roland might hear from race control because that move actually started when Oxner started to make that move. He moved to the outside of the racetrack to shut the door and then made the abrupt move back to the bottom of the racetrack to stop those that were charging from behind him. So we'll see if indeed race control has an issue with that move as we reach the 4-minute mark. And right now, he's looking very strong, talking about the 14-year-old Robert Noaker.
Yeah, so impressive as he makes his way out of the carousel. Palermo's not letting him get away, but that gap has stayed at a couple car lengths, enough to at least hold off the challenge for now here at Mid-Ohio. Going to be interesting, though, Mark, as they slug it out for 4th with Stout jumping to the inside of Roland. That's allowed Nico Rieger to kind of gap that group. Could Rieger be a late player running down the front two here with, again, just 3.5 minutes, probably looking at a lap and a half here at Mid-Ohio?
Well, let's face it, Tony, at this point, I mean, even though a lot of the guys that were chasing him have fallen by the wayside, every position means more points, and you don't want to look back to Mid-Ohio thinking you may have thrown one away by not being aggressive enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, coming into this weekend, Robert Noaker sitting just 3 points out of the championship top 10. That's what gets him up on stage at the championship banquet a few months from now in Monticello, New York. He's leading Hernan Palermo, guys, who is just a long-time legacy kind of guy in the MX-5 Cup category. Hernan knows how to make these MX-5 Cup cars work. He knows how to make them drive fast. Nico Rieger's your championship point leader, but Robert Noaker is leading them all right now. And wow, Celine Roland not really calming down much here as he continues to battle with Robert Stout, Luke Oxner in the number 77 up to 6th. He's just kind of sitting back there going, man, if Roland and Stout keep getting jiggy like this, maybe I have a chance to crack the top 3 here. But it's a good battle. That's the one you're watching right now, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. But wow, Robert Noaker, you can't say enough about him. As Oxner now puts a move on Celine Roland and gets around. Interesting note about Luke Oxner, guys, he's the only MX-5 Cup car out there with heated rims, in case you were wondering.
Well, I'll tell you, for guys that are out on the course calling it, we do like the fact that there's a little bit of flair to that race car, because it certainly makes the ID quicker when you're watching it from a long distance away, no doubt about it.
Nico Rieger just set the fastest lap of this race, and you can visually see it on the racetrack as this battle for the lead that was a 2-horse race has now become 3, as Robert Noaker holding on over Hernan Palermo, and now Nico Rieger has joined the fight with under 2 minutes to go here at Mid-Ohio. Rieger all over the back bumper of Palermo as they make their way out of the keyhole, Mark. All 3 drivers. Boy, Palermo puts the left rear tire off the racetrack, and I'll guarantee you that's going to give Rieger a chance to make a move.
And Noaker is saying, mix it up, boys, please. Let's get a little side-by-side action between you. But right now, the bumpers are virtually locked together. Look at that between the front 3 as they head toward turn number 4.
We saw Robert Noaker put his right hand up in the air, maybe to signal, hey, give me the bump draft, as they're not going to try to pass making their way through the S's just yet. It's Noaker, Palermo, and then Rieger, the front 3, as they make their way back down the hill through the S's.
This seems to be the part of the racetrack where Palermo is just a little bit stronger in terms of straightaway, the short straight to turn 1, and then up through the keyhole and back down. That seems to be where Noaker has the strength, although this time through Thunder Valley, he looks like he picked up a little momentum.
Yep, and this is the part of the racetrack right here where you really kind of have to stay single file. It's a rhythm part of the racetrack, not really a spot that you can make a lot of passes as they set up for the carousel here. It's Robert Noaker, Hernan Palermo, Nico Rieger, probably going to be between these 3 to settle it here at Mid-Ohio. They'll make their way through the carousel, and Mark, they're going to see the white flag. Can the 14-year-old hold on for one more lap here at Mid-Ohio?
More technical portions of the race course, very, very friendly to his car from turn 7 to about the final turn before they get back on that short straightaway. So you wonder, though, Palermo and Rieger, are they kind of getting together and maybe trying to set up the draft between the 2 of them? The freight train by the youngster as they exit the keyhole now. Setting up for the keyhole. Noaker's able to hold the ball. Palermo, Rieger, the front 3 battle it out. They've gained separation. It's clearly between these 3 now.
Noaker passes test number 1. That's holding the lead into the keyhole, one of the 2 best passing parts of the racetrack. Now, can Palermo get the run down to the S's to make a move? He is closing. He's got Rieger now pecking to the inside. Now they'll swing back to the outside, Mark. They may be side by side headed to the S's.
And they do go side by side, and they set him up, duped him just a little bit, and Palermo, for one, was able to get around him. However, 3rd place running Rieger not able to do it just yet as that front 3 continues to battle through Thunder Valley.
Now can Robert Noaker kind of regather it here on the second half of this final lap? He is right there. Will he give Hernan Palermo the bumper? About a foot or 2 separating those 2 cars as they make their way down through Thunder Valley, Mark. Just a couple corners to go here at Mid-Ohio.
Can the 14-year-old pull it off? Will Nico Rieger be content to let them battle it out? Oh, he lost a little grip. The leader did, Palermo, and it looks like Noaker's going to be able to take advantage. He loses grip again, slides off the final turn. He and the 2nd and 3rd place running car made contact off the final turn. Checkered flag is in the air, and the 14-year-old is going to win at Donnybrook over the past last 4 or 5 turns and get to victory lane.
That was absolutely incredible. Noaker got right up on the rear bumper of Palermo. I couldn't tell if there was contact or if Palermo just drove it a little too hard setting up for the carousel, but there was no doubt about it, Mark. That car stepped out on him. Robert Noaker took advantage. Our points leader, Nico Rigger, slips all the way back to 8th, so there's another variable. But, Tony, what can you say about this 14-year-old? Robert Noaker picks up his first win in the Battery Tender Global MX5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires in absolutely thrilling fashion.
You know, when the white flag flew, we had a great shot right there, and you'll see it again on the broadcast. They were super tight on Noaker as he came through turn number 2, and you could see those white gloves. His hands were quiet, guys. If you were a driver coach, that's exactly what you'd want to see out of Noaker. His hands were so quiet, so smooth on the steering wheel. I think we might get a chance at seeing the incident coming to the checkered flag here. It sounds like we might be taking a look at it, but Noaker drove a phenomenal final lap. Hernan Palermo set up a great pass, as you guys called it, but wow, you can't say enough about how calm Robert Noaker was during that final half of the last lap.
As you speculate, Nick, there might have been contact there, or it may have just been a point where you're late in the race. You've worn those tires. I mean, Palermo was flinging that car around the racetrack all day long, and it looks like we're going to get a look at it now. The final turns, yeah, you look at it. He was all by himself. I mean, it almost looked like drifting through that turn. And then they get side by side, and he comes to the final turn, and this is where the contact is made. I just think, Tony, it looked like the grip was gone on that race car.
Absolutely. I mean, Hernan Palermo was just driving everything he could get out of that 0-1 car, and it just didn't stick for him. Unfortunately, I apologize. Rieger's the 0-1, Palermo's in the 2-0. But, guys, that was just what we are used to seeing. And you said it, Mark, expect the unexpected. Well, that right there was pretty unexpected. It was a lot of fun, and I'm going to run to podium right now where we are going to have a very excited 14-year-old accept his first ever win in the MX5 Cup.
Well done. We'll see you tomorrow for the race as well, second half of the doubleheader. And about your points leader, let's face it, Nick, I mean, at that point, I think he was content to let those two slug it out. Because all of the guys that were chasing him in the championship, Ortiz and Dean and Roland, all those guys behind him, some deep in the field with issues, and boy, all of a sudden, a disaster strikes him, and that poor guy, he tumbles all the way to 8th place to finish this race.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable, and we'll see how that shakes out with the points championship. Obviously, it's not going to be the biggest hit in the world with other drivers like Brian Ortiz and John Dean II having issues. But still, Nico Rigger's going to go to bed tonight probably thinking what could have been as he saw a podium finish wash away. A lot of credit to Hernan Palermo, Mark. I mean, being attacked on the final lap, got sideways, was still able to hold on for a fantastic second-place finish as he will be the highest finishing driver in that Masters class. Robert Stout with an impressive third-place finish as he takes the spot that Rieger probably thought he would have. Again, great run for Luke Oxner in 4th. Celine Roland, that Sol Rudd Mazda car, pretty beat up, Mark, but he brings home a 5th-place finish. Thomas Bernacchi 6th. Zach Lee is 7th. But again, everyone chasing the 14-year-old Robert Noaker, who has made his way to victory lane and now popping that helmet off as a first-time winner in the Battery Tender Global MX5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires.
Happy to see Lee and Henderson and Allison in the top 10 and some names that we don't normally see among the top 10. So, Jake Query, you're standing by with our winner.
I'm not sure if it's completely set in just yet, Robert Noaker, but let's first off, congratulations, welcome to victory lane here, but let's talk about that last half a lap. What was going through your mind, and what did you think all of a sudden when you see Palermo gets loose? Did you have something to do with that a little bit?
Going out at the end of the back straight, I was just trying to be really defensive, make sure that not as many cars went by as I didn't want any to go by, but I wanted just one at least, like at most, to go by. And I was kind of planning on where I was going to do a move, and I saw him get loose going through the kink, and that's when I decided to make my move.
This began when you were 5 years old. You got a go-kart for Christmas. Hard to believe that was only 9 years ago. Did you ever imagine it would come this quickly?
I never thought, like when we started karts, I thought I was just going to do that for fun on weekends, and then I just kept moving up, and I find myself here in victory lane.
course, school begins when we will be in Portland. You'll manage to stave off just a little bit while your friends are going back to school. You'll be racing and finishing up the year, but now a win under your belt. Congratulations. Enjoy that sparkling grape juice they have for you.
Thanks.
Robert Noaker wins here at Mid-Ohio.
Thank you so much, Jake Query. What a cool story and what a fabulous race as Robert Noaker scores the victory here in race number 1 at Mid-Ohio in the Battery Tender Global MX5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires. Programming note, same place tomorrow. Race number 2 here at Mid-Ohio at 10 a.m. Same cast of characters and hopefully an equally fantastic race. A big thank you to Jake Query on pit lane and Tony Laporta here in the booth. For Mark Janes, I'm Nick Yeoman. Congratulations to 14-year-old Robert Noaker, who scores the victory here at Mid-Ohio in the Battery Tender Global MX5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires.